I'm a thoughtful person who often puts others first, and I find it difficult to understand why other people don't treat me the same. 2 years ago, there were some issues with my best friend and other members of our family, and when I asked for the support I needed from them, I was told that they couldn't give me what I needed, although I didn't believe I was asking for much. As these people are family, we still have to see them, and it's been difficult processing the breakdown of these friendships while still having to spend time together. How do I go about truly accepting people for who they are? And how can I get to a place where I'm just happy doing what I want to do, regardless of the back of effort put in by others?
I think my first thought, which I don't know if it's the most helpful one, is thinking about who this person has around them. And I think these not being met by particular friends or family, in my sense, it's always acutely more painful when they are the people we either most rely on or they are of the small few people that we have in our inner circle. And that if we have, like in my life, I would say I have different people that I go to for different things. And some of those people are not the right people to go to in certain types of need that find it less able to meet me emotionally, but really able to meet me in other ways. And it's easier, I think, to be at peace with the people who are not able or not willing to meet you in that way if you have other people in your life who are, because you're not dependent on them. So it's not the same level of resentment. So I'd be thinking a bit about, in the wider perspective of their life, are there people who can meet you? And does that allow you to let go of the part that really wants those people to show up in
That's
a
a
way
good
that
point.
they're not to?
Yeah, I mean, I really agree with that. And the other thing that I would say is that sometimes it's helpful when you notice a pattern in lots of your relationships, that it sounds by your question that there's this sort of consistent theme of I give more than I receive, and I am sort of let down by the people,
Disappointed, yeah.
yeah, by the people who I care for. And I experience this mismatch, and that's really, really hurtful and very, very painful to feel like, well, I would have given you that, but you're not giving me that. So am I lesser than to you? And I think when you have a sort of consistent theme of a dynamic, it's always helpful to go back. Like, is this an experience that you have had for a long time? Is this experience that maybe even you had as a child, that this sort of sense of not getting enough and not being seen and asking for what feels like a really small amount and not getting it? And so there might be something in your, maybe this is too therapist, but in your subconscious that's almost replaying an experience from a much, much earlier time. Just be worth thinking about, like, is this familiar? Is this experience with my friends, with my family, something that happens a lot? And if it is, can I go back and kind of dig a bit deeper into that pain and maybe work out a bit what sort of behind it?
Because the piece I'd add into that, and I agree with both of you, and I really feel for you because it's a horrible feeling, kind of, that relationships aren't reciprocal and that you give more than you get. And it kind of gives us this version of ourselves that we don't want and we don't like. But I also wonder, could you actually have open conversations with the very important people in your life where you're honest, where you can, without it being combative, kind of explore with them and be specific, like, when I asked dot 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 and you didn't dot dot dot, I felt dot dot dot, so that you can kind of explore it and maybe help them understand, because people aren't mind readers and they may think that they gave you what you wanted, or that they're giving you lots, or that there's a lot going on with them, and they just, I think we think people think about us more than they do. And I think sometimes we have to be sort of assertive and an advocate for ourselves in a way that does feel risky, but also, like us three have talked before about fighting productively, like having difficult conversations where you may upset each other, but you do eventually kind of come to understand each other better and repair with a deeper knowledge and a deeper connection. And so it might be worth having even the fight about. So I wouldn't kind of go quietly into it, because it feels shameful not saying anything, because, as we've said again, shame grows in silence. So I think when you can voice it, you'll feel both scared, but also that you're representing yourself, which helps you not feel like there's something wrong with you or something wrong with them that you really resent.
I would only affirm what you were saying, Mum, that I think so many parts that create hurt in couples and in friendships are underneath it all a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, where we've interpreted a certain behavior or comment with a bunch of our own projections or assumptions or thinking that actually is not true, or it's just one part of what was happening. So if they feel like safe people to do it with, and I would flag that there are some people where
Yeah.
it's not necessarily safe or appropriate to go back in there with these vulnerable parts of yourself. But if that is a judgment call that for most people most of the time is worth giving a go, there's a lot to be gained, not just for that particular hurt, but for future relationship of misunderstanding.
And if you are going to do that, kind of prepare yourself, like, prepare yourself physiologically to like take breaths, calm yourself down, kind of think about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it, the tone of your voice, the time and place you're going to say it, so that you give yourself the best chance of being heard. Because if you say it in a very kind of intense way, when you're in a heightened state, the response it will get will be one of defense, probably, or attack. So if you can bring yourself down, in the polyvagal sense, to the green zone and be calm about it, although you may feel vulnerable, you're more likely to be heard, and then you're more likely to have the response where your relationship can grow from it.
I think that's really good advice. I think sometimes when you have a dynamic that's almost like I was thinking a lot about transactional analysis when she was talking, and these sort of scripts that we have. And
Nice, yeah.
that sometimes you can go into a conversation with the best of intentions to be clear, and yet there's something that's sort of going on in the dynamic of the relationship that gets you stuck in this pattern where you go in wanting to clarify things and you come out feeling like sort of what? Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't have the conversation. I'm just saying that I think there's something about
Scripts you can fall into. Just to have a bracket about TA is that you go, it's parent, adult, child, and you can go in wanting to have an adult conversation with an adult, direct, clean, clear conversations, and you can start as an adult and end up as a child fighting with a parent, and you don't even realize that you're doing it.
Yes, exactly. And it can sort of take all different sort of forms, and you're sort of all setting each other up in a way, and then the same sort of pattern repeats itself. So I think just being really aware of that might be helpful. That if it does end up that you sort of end up feeling at the end of it, oh, like the same thing happened in relation as it has in all our other interactions, in which I feel like I've been the one that has, had to come to you, and I've been the one that's had to bring up this different thing. And then you were like invalidated my experience or blew it off or whatever. And now I feel the same thing happened in our conversation as it did when I needed help and you didn't give it to me. I think that's a sign that there's something going on below the waterline that you need to kind of figure out so you can step out of it.
That's really good. We really hope ideas and thoughts are useful. Obviously, anyone listening, if they have a similar problem or the person that asked the question, take the aspects of this that are useful, totally disregard those that don't seem useful, because everyone is so unique and we don't know very much about you. But thank you for asking the question, and thank you for everyone who asked the questions. Do ask more via DM on my Instagram page, Julia Salmon MBE. All of you, thank you for listening and downloading these Agony Auntie episodes. We really like doing them, and I really hope they're helpful. And do share them if you think they'll be helpful for other people. Thank you very much.